Welcome to season 3 of CFMA's Chat with the Chairman. I am your host, CFMA's 22-23 Chairman, Tom Borgia. For those of you who have watched Chat with the Chairman previously, this season will be a little bit different. Instead of getting to know guests in a traditional interview format, I will be asking guests 9 rapid fire questions, and they'll have the opportunity at the end to ask me anything. Today's guest is Christian Geismann, CFO of Schuchart, President of the Puget Sound chapter of CFMA, and Chair of the 2022 Pacific Northwest Regional Conference Planning Committee. Thanks for joining me today, Christian.
Hi, Tom. Thanks for having me.
All right, well, let's jump in and get started. So question number 1, what did you have for breakfast this morning?
Ooh, same thing I have every morning, plain yogurt and granola.
All right, that fits being Pacific Northwest, right?
Right, so does the beard.
All right, question number 2, what's your favorite place that you've lived?
So I've got a love affair with Seattle, right, in the Pacific Northwest. Born, raised here. I'm kind of becoming outnumbered now because all the native Seattleites have moved elsewhere and all these other folks are coming in. But despite all that, the best place I've ever lived was in London in the UK. My wife and I had the opportunity to live and work there back in 2010. And we were there for 2 years and absolutely loved it. Such a great jumping off place to the rest of Europe. But even in London itself, there's something going on every day, every night. And what do they say? If you're bored with London, then you're bored with life, right? And so it's a pretty special place.
That's a really cool way to put it. You know, it's amazing. We sit here, there's so many great places across the globe to visit, to see, to live. I know there's so many great places here just in the US, and obviously Seattle is one of those. It's an absolutely beautiful city, lots to do. But when you think worldwide, London's one of those places that I think is on everybody's bucket list to have the opportunity to get to. So it's pretty cool that you had the opportunity to live there.
Oh yeah, but unfortunately, every day that passes by, it's further and further into the memory bank, right? It feels like a dream.
For sure. Well, good answer there. Next question up. Is there anything exciting happening with your chapter right now?
Oh, we've got so much going on, but the biggest thing that we're doing right now is we're organizing a regional conference with Portland, South Sound, Idaho chapter out of Boise, Last Frontier out of Alaska, and Hawaii. We're calling it's the Pacific Northwest Regional Conference. It's occurring September 25th through the 27th. This is a reboot of the regional conference that's existed in the past, but looking to be better than ever. It is CFMA branded. We're doing it in downtown Seattle over those few days. And it's just going to be spectacular. This conference planning committee that we've got from all the chapters that I mentioned, they have leaned in so far to put this together. And so you've got people committing so much time and energy and effort to, procuring the best speakers for content, or to be talking with, sponsors and vendors who can come by and share what their companies do. It's just going to be a really, really fun time, and very, very excited for that. So September 25th, the 27th, and Tom, you might even want to come, right? It's going to be that good. Maybe it deserves your presence.
I would love to be out there, and believe it or not, it's actually on my calendar. Again, Seattle is one of the greatest spots in the country to visit. But for you guys, kind of having the revamped regional conference, I'm looking forward to being out there as well. So I think it's really neat that you guys have so many people pulling together, and really from such a big geographic area. I mean, you've got Hawaii, you've got Alaska, and a lot of the Northwest. It's a lot of ground to cover, but I'm very excited to kind of get this thing back off the ground and get it up and running. I know you guys have a great group of speakers, and there's plenty of education there as well. So I look forward to being out there. It's a short flight from Orlando to Seattle, and I can't wait.
Well, and on that note, I mean, anybody else welcome to come out. It is such a great time of the year. And I'm being honest here, in Seattle at the end of September, it's actually warm, it's sunny, I mean, I'm not putting guarantees out there, but typically, and if you got a farmer's almanac, it will say like, hey, you know what? That's a good time of the year to go out there. And it's going to be a little chilly at night, a little crisp, but that's all right. And if you come early, maybe there's a Seahawks game, maybe there's a Mariner game. You can make it a pretty good weekend.
Very neat. Something for everybody, I'm sure.
That's right.
All right, next up, what are you reading right now?
Well, I just finished reading this book called Grit. It's been out for a few years. It really it was good. Yeah, I took away a number of things. One of the things that I took away that actually relates more to my family is instilling this idea about grit in your children, right? And I went into it kind of thinking grit was all about just working as hard as you can and just kind of you don't say no, and all that. And it's more about persevering through challenging times. It's about not giving up. And so with your kids, the author makes it a point within her family to with her kids, they do an extracurricular activity every single season or month, or basically, at least one thing at a time. But once they sign up for that, they're not allowed to quit on that. So if they start doing softball or they start doing, soccer or something else, they need to see it all the way through to the end of the season. Even if they hate it, and they never want to touch it again, that's fine. You can be done with it, but you have to finish out through the season. And so it's really about not quitting anything that you start.
That's a good point, and I'm sure there's a number of great life lessons in there as well. I mean, many of those that you bring up just from reading the book, they resonate with me. Having a couple of young kids, and I'm sure there's a lot of great life lessons there for sure.
Absolutely.
So, how about your favorite TV show of all time? We'll go with a little lighter question.
Oh, it's Seinfeld. I mean, if you can't find an episode or a part of an episode that doesn't somehow resonate with you in your life at some point, well, that's a shame, right? Maybe you need to keep watching. It is just so ridiculous, but also so relevant at the same time. It's awesome.
That's for sure. There's a lot of good ones out there. Seinfeld is certainly top of the list for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Next one. What have you had to overcome as a young leader, either in CFMA or in your own business?
Yeah, both with my own business and CFMA, and wanting, there's this really big desire on my part, and I see this with other people too, who there's so much that we want to try to accomplish, right? We get excited, get out of bed in the morning because there's all these great ideas that we have. We want to take them forward. And then at the same time, you got to really balance that out because so my family, wife and 3 really young daughters, 6, 4, and 2. And it's like, well, you got to be able to still be there for them. Right. And so you can't just focus on all these things you want to do and try to lead your organization or do things with CFMA. You got to make sure that you're figuring out ways to be at home, to be with your family, to attend events and things like that. And so that is what I'm finding to be the biggest challenge for myself, is this idea about balance, or just, finding enough time and energy for all the priorities that are out there.
Yeah, for sure, especially with 3 young kids, it's interesting to hear the word balance, because I think all leaders, whether you're experienced or young, one of the biggest challenges we have is kind of the ebb and flow of the work that you have. And obviously you want to give 100% to everything you've got, including your family, your faith, your job, your friends, everything else. But there's only so many hours in the day, and how do you balance that? And it's really an everyday deal in order to find that balance. But it's interesting because in talking to some of the other younger leaders around the country, they've said the same thing. It's really not the work. We can find ways to get the work done. We can be efficient. We can lead our organizations, but it really comes back to, how do I find that balance for my spouse, my family, or whatever truly makes you tick. So it was a really good answer. And I know there's a lot of folks out there that are having some of those same challenges.
Yeah. And it doesn't help that I really like my sleep. So I feel like I need at least 7 hours. to be able to function the next day. I've tried it with 4 and 5 and 6, and you don't want to see that, Tom. It is a different Christian.
I am the same way. I'm probably somewhere in that 6 to 7 range. Anything under 6, it's going to take a number of cups of coffee and probably a closed door in the office for a little while to get the cobwebs out. So sleep is important for sure.
That's right.
All right, next up, favorite holiday.
Well, Christmas. And I know that probably 90% of the folks who would get on here would say the same thing. If you think about it, it's this time of the year that everybody is coming together. And, even if it isn't your faith, right, to celebrate Christmas, it's still, for our country, a time when we all get together and take that time off and really just celebrate being together.
Yeah, I think that's very important as well. That's a good point on Christmas. I know many people would say the same thing there. Mine's I love Christmas. For me, it's Thanksgiving. It's really more of it's a celebration to bring the family together. And I guess, I don't know, there's a little less hecticness in Thanksgiving than there is in the Christmas season, but I certainly love them both for sure.
Yeah.
So next up, what is something you can never overinvest in?
I think about this a lot with like idea of lifetime learning. I've talked about that before in different places, that, it's just so important to be constantly hungry and learning. But really what I think, if from a skill standpoint, because lifetime learning is more of a process, it's listening and empathy, right? Like true listening. Because, what are we all trying to do? No matter what you're trying to accomplish, what your function is, you're going to be working with other people and to be successful. And to be able to work with other people, you've got to be able to listen to them, listen to some of the personal challenges that they're bringing in, some of the personal needs that they have, or, maybe there are no challenges, maybe there's opportunities that they're pushing forward. And so, having that ear out there to listen to what they're saying, more than trying to talk yourself, but then really listen to what they are truly saying and have that empathy out there. That's something which I think I'm okay at, or maybe good, at least to the good level. And I've worked hard to try to do that. So that is probably the skill that I think that, I could continue to work on for my entire life, and I'll still never get quite good enough.
I think that's something for everybody to be able to take, is be able to listen a little bit more. Sometimes that silence in conversation sometimes is golden. You can actually process what's being said, think through, hear clearly. And like you said, it allows the conversation to flow and you can exchange ideas, but listening is a very important trait. I'd agree with you there.
Yeah.
So last question, favorite hobby?
There's a lot of things I love to do. Of course, as we talked about, not enough time to do them all, right? It doesn't sound amazing because it's kind of a lazy thing to do, to what I'm about to say, to watch baseball. My wife is like, well, come on, why don't you talk about playing baseball? I'm like, because I'm not good at it. And I get out there and I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. I love the sport. So I will get out there and play. But don't ever put me on your team unless you just don't care. But watching baseball, there's just so many intricate dynamics to the game, right? There's a lot of obviously skill in every sport. There's a lot of strategy in every sport, but baseball is kind of it's slow moving, right? And I'm not saying anything new there, which is why it turns off a lot of people. But for me, because it is in that slow moving nature, you can really then get a sense of everything that's going on in the game and all the moves and the counter moves and whatnot. It's pretty fun. It's also kind of, you could say, a guilty pleasure, at least up here in the Northwest, because the Seattle Mariners haven't gone to the playoffs in over 20 years. So me still going to a Mariner game or watching on TV, it's kind of thought as, hey, what are you doing? Don't you have anything else to do? And I'm like, no, this is what I like.
Well, we certainly have a connection point there. I'm a baseball fan through and through, and can certainly understand and appreciate the intricacies. I would tell you, my wife can't stand it. I don't know that she could sit there and watch a baseball game for 3 hours just because, like you said, it's so slow. But I
Yeah.
love the game within the game and the mental piece of it. I think and like you said, that's true in all sports and all things that we do. But in baseball, being so passionate about it and being able to see behind the scenes what's going on and what people are thinking, it's really really neat. So when I get up there to Seattle, we're gonna have to check out the Mariners schedule and see if two baseball fans can go out there and just watch the game mentally one of these days.
Yes, yes. I'm bringing you to a game. Who's your
Awesome.
team?
I am actually a Chicago Cubs fan, and I think I might have shared this on the last chat with the chairman as well. But the interesting thing there is I have no ties to Chicago whatsoever. I grew up in New Jersey and kind of bounced around the East Coast throughout my career. But when I was on my little league team at age 4 or 5, the first team I was on was the Cubs. And so I got my Cubs jersey, I got my Cubs hat, which probably didn't fit right either, put it on. And from that point on in the early 80s, I was a Chicago Cubs fan and have followed them to this day. So for years and years, I've lived in the misery as well. And then eventually the Cubs finally got it done a couple of years ago, so I can go for the next 50 without a World Series title and probably be fine. But yeah, that's how I fell into the Chicago Cubs through my first T-ball team.
Oh, that's awesome. Guilty pleasure for you as well for so many of those decades.
Absolutely, I absolutely love it now, and fortunate enough, my 14-year-old's a big time baseball kid too, so he loves it just as much as I do. So I've got a partner in crime as far as
Good,
watching baseball goes. So
good. Keep it going.
well, next up, your turn to ask me anything. I know we fired away with 9 questions for you, so throw something out there for the chairman, and I'll see if I can do my best.
Well, we talked about, young leader and kind of, anything that you might have to overcome. I'm curious to know for you, right? And your development as a leader to now be the chair of CFMA, how have you developed over time? What's been your journey, and maybe what sort of advice might you have for folks like me who are looking to try to continue to develop and aspire to similar types of roles?
Well, really good question. I think there were a number of points during my business career to date, and really my CFMA career to date, where the light really went on for me, I guess, so to speak. But early on in my career, I was actually very fortunate to work with an ENR top 10 firm, and so coming into construction finance, which really isn't an area that people go to school for, right? I want to say many of us end up falling into it, and maybe finance people that end up working in construction. But I had the opportunity to work with this great company coming out of school. And so the education and the training and all the resources were there for the finance and accounting professionals to really learn the industry, learn accounting, and learn how construction was different. And I really took a passion to it. I was always a numbers guy and always an accounting person, but understanding that I could get education, I could network with people, and I could learn. And I think one of the things you said earlier was very important for me as well. Just the ability to listen, right? To sit back, step back for a second and listen to people. There are so many smart people out there in the world today. If we'll just take an opportunity to step back and listen to them, we can learn so much. And I think early in my career, I had a couple of mentors that kind of helped push me along, and they set me on the path really. And this wasn't even CFMA yet. This was really just business and industry, and said, hey, you need to stick your neck out there a little bit. You need to meet people. You need to shake hands. You need to listen to what they say and kind of respect the past and respect what they've done. And I was able to take that to heart and really learn the industry, understand the industry. And then ultimately, after being with the company for several years, I decided to jump into CFMA on a recommendation from a peer of mine and said, hey, you really need to get involved here. This is where construction financial professionals and associates with connections with construction all kind of intertwine, connect, and network. And so I jumped into my local chapter at the time and learned a lot more about CFMA, expanded my network, and learned a lot from people. I took in all the education I could, and I had a network of folks where if I had a challenge, I could make a phone call, right, and get an answer or ask for advice. I was stuck on something and just conflicted, and I was able to reach out to somebody outside my own organization to help. So that was really early on in CFMA. And then as I became more involved, I jumped on a couple of the local committees, and then ultimately moved down to Florida in 2007. And there I got involved with the Central Florida chapter. And similar to that, was in a couple committees locally, and then ended up following the officer track there as vice president, and then to president in the Central Florida chapter. And really at that point, I was able to expand the network a bit, meet more people, continue to educate, and realize that I had an opportunity to not only educate myself, but also to educate younger leaders in the industry. And one of the big things for me throughout the years has been construction finance has been such a great industry to me and my family, and it's given me the opportunity to have the life that we want. I want to be able to give back to that industry, and that's really where I see it through CFMA now. So my journey obviously included local flavor in Central Florida, and then moved on to some national committees, and then ultimately an invite to the executive committee, where I served for 2 years before being elected in as treasurer, and then last year vice chair, and this year chair of the organization. But I think it's been a great platform and a great journey. And I think the cool part is not everybody's journey is the same. Mine's different from everybody else's that's out there. There may be some intertwined parts, but it's been a pretty cool journey. And I think my evolution through my business career and CFMA career have kind of led me to this point, in that I understand networking and meeting people is so important. I understand the education is important. And it's really, I'm at a point where I want to be able to give back to the industry and to the leaders and the up and coming leaders that are out there. So it's really, that's what I'm passionate about. There's a lot of things I'm passionate about within CFMA, but having that opportunity to give back to the younger leaders, that's really important to me. And so I would say for advice, it's really just listen. The times that you don't want to go to that networking event, get out there, find the time, make the 45 minutes or the hour, meet a couple people, shake a hand. You never know when you're going to meet somebody that could be within your network. It could change your career, change your life, right? And many CFMA people that I've met over the years have become very, very good friends of mine, and people that I would lean on in a heartbeat if I needed something, CFMA or otherwise. It's been a great run, a great journey, and I'm very excited to lead the organization this year.
I think the word, thank you for sharing that. I think the word to probably sum all that up on top of listening would be engagement, right? Because it sounds like every step of your journey in your career, and then with CFMA, you've become a little bit more engaged in the organization, whatever that organization might be. And then that's allowed you to propel and move further up.
It has. I think that's a really good way to put it. And it's really not an aggressive engagement either. It's just wanting to be part of something special, right? And taking the next step. And after a while, we are where we are. I mean, I joke with people, if you asked me 5 years ago, would you see yourself as the chair of CFMA? The answer was no. I was really in a different point in my career, and I was certainly involved in CFMA at a totally different level. But the last 5-year run has been nothing short of awesome. I mean, it's been great, and it's due to that engagement. So I think that's a really good way to put it. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. That's great.
Well, Christian, this has been a lot of fun. It was great getting to know you a little bit today. I know rapid fire questions. We threw some easy ones in there, some tough ones as well. But thank you for joining me, and to the viewers at home, thanks for watching us. And be sure to join me next month, as we're going to go chat with the chair live from Atlanta in the conference, and we'll have a couple special guests. So stay tuned for that. And Christian, thank you again for your time, and best of luck the rest of the year.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
All right, take care, guys. We'll see you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.